Hello, my name is Darren Thomas, and I'm the Director of EducationalResearchTechniques.com. In this video, we're going to take a look at ways to enhance and improve true and false test items. As you know, particularly when you have larger class sizes, you must find ways to automate or to reduce the load of having to assess the students and to determine their understanding of the content. So one of the alternative ways to assess students, particularly like I said in larger classes, is to rely on such things as true and false, multiple choice, and matching. Now, having said that, I'm going to show you some ways that you can hopefully improve your true and false, because as you know, there are some common problems with true and false. So here we have an example right here of true or false statement that you might see on an assessment. So true or false, Thailand is south of Malaysia. Now, the problem with this type of true and false assessment item is that a student can randomly guess and have a 50% chance of success almost every single time. So if you look down here in our picture here, this student is feeling very confident. Hey, no matter what happens, I should get about half of them right, because the weakness with true and false, at least this traditional way of doing it, is that there are only these two choices. This is why they often encourage multiple choice instead. It reduces the success of random guessing. Now, in the next slide, I'm going to show you a way that you can still use true and false, but if you make a slight modification, you can hopefully reduce the potential for random success through guessing. So, in this next slide here, you can see now that the student has to do several more things, and of course you would have directions, of course. So we have the same statement here. Thailand is south of Malaysia, true or false. Now, the blank line is for the purpose of, once the student determines their answer, they have to indicate, if it's false, why the answer is false. So there are two things they have to do. They have to put the correct answer in the blank line, and they must underline or circle the actual word in the sentence or the statement that is incorrect. So Thailand is south of Malaysia. So we know, of course, if you're familiar with Southeast Asia geography, that this is the problem right here. Thailand is not south of Malaysia. Thailand is north, like so. And so the student will write all this in like so, and of course they also have to circle this. Now, having to do all this, it helps with several things. One, it helps to determine if the student knows why the answer is false. Two, the student must identify exactly what in the statement is incorrect. And so now you can see that our student here, she's not quite so confident, because if she is ignorant, she cannot hide through random guessing as much. Now, there is a downside to this. If the statement is true, the student can just randomly guess true and still get half of them right. So this is by no means perfect. However, if you want to include true and false test items on an assessment like an exam or a test, this is one way to step up the challenge. Now, another thing that could be a problem is that the student might randomly pick something. For example, they might say something like Thailand is south of Malaysia. Well, they might say, well, this is obviously wrong because Indonesia is south of Malaysia. It gets very confusing. It gets very, very fuzzy about what the student will identify as the problem. And so, again, this is by no means perfect, but maybe perhaps for a quiz, if you want to experiment with some way of challenging the student's thinking, you might want to work with something like this and be flexible. Because like I said, Indonesia is south of Malaysia. So instead of crossing on south, I just cross off Thailand and put Indonesia, and you can see it gets confusing. So you have to keep these things in mind. Now, having said that, there are a few tips that I want to provide for you so that you can hopefully improve your true and false test items. Number one, and this is probably obvious, the statement must be absolutely true at all times or absolutely false at all times. This is not one of these places where you can make, these fuzzy critical thinking type questions. It must be black or white. Otherwise, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's false. That's a problem. Second bullet, you need to avoid words that are indefinite, long, short, hard, soft. Don't say, yeah, Bob is faster than Mary. What does faster mean? It's better to give a more concrete example, like Bob is 10 seconds faster than Mary. Or Bob travels 30 miles per hour while, Sandy or whatever travels, 20 miles per hour, whatever. If you want to be as definite as possible, because this helps to indicate if it is true or false. You also, with the third bullet, have to be careful with absolute terms. Always, never, permanently. Sometimes even this can be problematic because it might not always be like that, which is where it gets fuzzy. And last bullet, you want to avoid a predictable pattern. Sometimes teachers will go, okay, the odds are true, the evens are false. You don't want to do those kind of things. The pattern should be somewhat randomized so that students cannot start to kind of guess what your pattern is and just follow that. So I hope that these ideas here were helpful for you, and I want you to just remember that the way that you can deal with true and false statements is by having the students complete additional information if the statement is false, and also keep in mind the tips that we have here on the screen. My name is Darren Thomas, and I'm the Director of Educational Research Techniques. Thank you for listening to this video on ways to empower and improve your your true and false statements on assessments.